Making a new friend, inspired by Hing Yijing, Jairus Go, Jordan Tang, Putri Inashiara, and Valerie Lee. Hi, what is your name? Do you like soccer like me? Let's play together. Vivian is her name. She has hair like Rapunzel. She is beautiful. To the fields we go, kicking the ball to my friend, and she scored a goal. What a happy day. Endless laughter and giggles. I made a new friend.
A Perfect Mother, inspired by Sheena Ko, Vivian Tan, Wan Sum Yi, and Wayne Tan. World's population, 7.7 billion. One perfect mother. My mother taught me how to be helpful and kind with her loving heart. My mother hugs me, cares for me, and wipes my tears when I am upset. Thank you, dear mother, for everything you have done. I love you so much.
Superhero Daddy, inspired by Laurent Wong. I love my daddy. He is my superhero, strong and supportive. He loves basketball and encouraged me to play, but I was too small. He lifted me up, his other hand threw my ball. In, we scored a goal. My dad is the best. Ordinary dad may be. To me, he's special.
Miss Brenda, inspired by Muhammad Heryan and Tang Weiwen. I love to go school. I have a favorite teacher, Pretty Miss Brenda. She taught us kindness. For one day, our minds may fade, but our values stay. She reminded us, believe in what we stand for. Stay humble, be brave. She is our candle, a role model, and more than just her lesson plans. Someone inspiring who lights children's hearts and minds to glow with knowledge.
Imagine a day as a veterinarian, inspired by Chong Xiao Kwan. It was the wee hours of the morning. I had just completed an emergency 10-hour surgery on a cat, which had suffered heart failure after being startled by a goldfish. Is it morning already? My puffy eyes were slow to blink, and my eyelids were heavier than usual. As I shuffled out of the hospital, I heard loud screeching sounds. Bang! A chill ran down my spine. I knew something terrible had happened. Without hesitation, I bolted out of the hospital. I heard a faint whimper amidst the pitter-patter of the rain. A dog lay in the middle of the wet road. It was clearly a hit-and-run case. The poor dog was left to die on the road. I ran over to help. After a quick assessment, I realized that his ribs and legs were broken by the force of the impact. I called for immediate medical assistance. Tensions were high as the medical team brought the injured dog to the operating theater. Everyone worked against time to save the little dog. A nurse conducted a full-body X-ray. A veterinary anesthesiologist administered anesthesia to the dog. I prepared bags of blood for a blood transfusion. All eyes were on the heart rate monitor as the patient's heart rate was very faint. Its breathing was shallow. We immediately performed the surgery. For the next 5 hours, adrenaline coursed through our veins as we fought to stabilize the dog's condition. As I sewed my last stitch, I heaved a sigh of relief. Outside the operating theater, I was frantically greeted by a lady in her 20s whose face was etched with worry. Her eyes were filled with tears. "How's Buddy? Please tell me what happened to him. My poor dog. I brought her to a comfortable sofa and offered her tissues and a hot drink. I slowly explained Buddy's condition and assured her that she would be able to see her dog as soon as he woke up. I was finally done with my duties. I was suddenly overwhelmed by a wave of fatigue and looked at my watch. What? 4 o'clock in the afternoon already? I have been awake for close to 31 hours. I really need to go home and sleep. After reading all this, you might be wondering if being a veterinarian is worth all that stress and responsibility. I would still choose this career in a heartbeat because it gives me a huge sense of accomplishment to give animals another chance to live. I will uphold all guiding principles in my Veterinary Association Code of Ethics. The one that is especially close to my heart is to constantly endeavor to ensure the welfare of animals committed to a veterinarian's care.
Imagine a day as a secret agent, inspired by Tan Hui Shan. Yay, it's finally time for bed, I said tiredly. Before I could even lie down, my phone rang. I thought, who could it be? It is already so late. The call must be from the police's secret agent department. As a secret agent, I have to stay alert at all times and anticipate any unexpected calls from the police department regarding important emergency cases. Without hesitation, I immediately answered the phone. Hello? Yes, noted. I will be on my way immediately. As a secret agent, I often have to blend in with the crowd to investigate criminals without raising suspicion. Thus, I have to be in casual attire to disguise my true identity. Although being a secret agent can be difficult and dangerous at times, I like my work, as I want to make Singapore safer. As soon as I reached the secret agent department, my boss told me that there was a gang fight at Rosewood Avenue 5. My boss informed me that I would be leading a team of secret agents to capture the elusive Salty Egg Yolk Gang, which is one of the most well-known terror gangs in the region. My team and I have worked together for a very long time. Over time, we managed to nab many criminals together. I was confident that we would finally catch the Salty Egg Yolk Gang today. We immediately drove to Rosewood Avenue 5, hoping to catch the Salty Egg Yolk Gang as soon as possible. Upon our arrival, we hid in different corners and waited for an opening to attack, as we had to ensure that they were off guard. As I crouched next to a rubbish bin to plan my team's next move, suddenly, to my utmost horror, the sound ring, ring pierced through the air. My phone started ringing. Oh no! I had forgotten to switch my phone off. I scrambled to turn it off, but to no avail. Someone shouted, "Who is that? Come out now!" Our undercover mission was jeopardized. Knowing that I had to act before they started attacking me, I gestured to some of my colleagues, instructing them to prepare for ambush. Using my hand to count down, I signaled 3, 2, 1, ready to act. My team swooped in upon my signal. They used handcuffs to nab each gang member. I called for more police officers as backup. Soon, sirens could be heard from afar. After the whole ordeal, my team and I could finally go home. We felt proud we were able to successfully complete our mission with no lives lost. Without the help of my teammates, my blunder would have landed me in hot soup. As the saying goes, if you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, go together. How important it is to work together as a team.
Nabbing the Pickpocket, inspired by Zach Chow. Welcome to Woodvale Primary School. Please take the stairs up to the hall. I grinned as I greeted a group of guests at the school gate. I was performing my duty as usher for my school's 20th anniversary celebrations. The weather was sweltering hot, and I could feel myself sweating under the thick blazer I was wearing. Staring absent-mindedly into space while waiting for the next batch of guests to arrive, I heard distant shouting. My curiosity piqued, and I glanced around, but saw nothing. However, the shouting soon grew louder. Help! Help! He grabbed my wallet! I turned my head around and saw an elderly lady wailing after a running man. That's my money! Please don't take it! She cried as she wobbled after the pickpocket with her walking stick. Immediately, I started chasing the pickpocket. At the same time, I yelled, "Someone, call the police! He stole a wallet!" Immediately, some passers-by whipped out their phones to call the police. I continued chasing after the thief. Even though I was running out of breath, I steeled myself to sustain the momentum and continued running at a fast speed. Closing in on the pickpocket, I took a leap and grabbed hold of his hand. With all my strength, I held on as tightly as I could to prevent the pickpocket from running away. However, with my blazer and tie, I was feeling really uncomfortable as beads of perspiration trickled down my face. A thin layer of mist was forming on my spectacle lenses, making it harder for me to see properly. I felt a sense of despair as it was increasingly difficult for me to stop the pickpocket from struggling and trying to run away. Then, I heard police sirens wailing and saw police cars pulling up at the scene. The policemen ran out of their cars and nabbed the pickpocket immediately. I heaved a sigh of relief as I slumped onto the ground. Even though I left my ushering duties midway, my teachers and parents were extremely proud of me for standing up for the elderly lady and seeking justice for her. The pickpocket was punished for taking advantage of such a helpless person. The elderly lady thanked me profusely. Her words of gratitude made my efforts truly all worthwhile. Thereafter, I was awarded a Medal of Commendation from the police. They praised me for having stood up for the vulnerable. From this incident, I understood the importance of protecting individuals in our society who need our help. Every little action counts towards building a more gracious society.
An Adventure, inspired by Ethan Leong. It was already 2 a.m. As I peered anxiously at my computer screen's digital clock, my fingers furiously typed on the keyboard. I was trying to complete final edits for a computer game I designed. The deadline for submission to make it for the prestigious Game Design Cup was at 10 a.m., so I had to quickly make some final adjustments. Exhausted, I could feel my eyelids drooping as I slowly drifted off to sleep. Cock-a-doodle-doo! The sun shone brightly down on me. Startled, I opened my eyes. To my horror, I was sitting in a meadow. The scenery looked oddly familiar, but I was simply too scared to recall where I had seen it before. Greetings, brave knight. Your quest is to find the three-headed dragon and slay it. Then the fairy of River Nymph can send you home. I stared in shock as a fairy in white robes flew towards me. How could it be? She was the non-playing character in my game. Finally, it dawned on me. I was stuck in my own game, and the only way to escape was to find the dragon and defeat it. When I designed the game, I programmed the dragon to be as ferocious as possible, to make the game look more exciting. I trembled at the thought of it. It was impossible for me to do such a scary task. I looked at the fairy pleadingly and said, "Please, help me out. I cannot do this." She smiled reassuringly, and at the snap of her fingers, I was suited with a metal armor along with a sword and shield in hand. Looking down, I was also given magical flying boots. Go now, brave knight. As soon as the dragon wakes up, we will all be doomed. Tightening the laces on my flying boots, I flew to the volcano where the dragon's lair was. Perspiration trickled down my cheeks. My palms were clammy. What if I could not slay the dragon? I would lose the chance of going home. These fears began creeping into my mind, and I started doubting the plan. No, this is not the time to be afraid. I am properly armed to defeat the dragon. I can overcome this challenge. At the lair, I saw the dragon sleeping with its 3 heads resting on a towering boulder. Each head was disfigured. Every time the dragon exhaled, thick smoke poured out from its nostrils. Mustering up my courage, I carefully crept towards the dragon and flew onto the boulder with my flying boots. I raised my sword and swiftly stabbed one of its eyes. Roar! The dragon was shaken awake and started breathing fire. I deftly deflected the flames using my shield and flew to the side. Taking advantage of the dragon's wounded side, I quickly chopped off its heads, while simultaneously deflecting its flames. Each of its heads dropped to the ground with a loud bang. As the dragon slumped to the ground, the fairy of River Nymph appeared. Thank you for your gallant efforts, knight. You have defeated the ferocious dragon and completed your quest. Your bravery in the face of danger is commendable. You learned to conquer your fear of the dragon and overcome the challenges. You are truly the bravest knight this kingdom has ever seen. I beamed in delight as my surroundings started to fade. I opened my eyes and found myself back home. The clock on my table showed 3:32 a.m. As I laid back down on my bed, I realized how important it was to be brave, even in the face of adversity. The dragon in my game reminded me of all the fears and obstacles I had in my life, and it was up to me to be the brave knight and defeat it. What a lesson and adventure it was!
Winning the championship, inspired by Emiko Lau. Victory! As I saw the opposing team cheering loudly at their win, I hung my head low and trudged back to the bench. Why did I not block that player from making that final shot? How could I have missed my free throw? As captain of my school's basketball team, I felt ashamed and demoralized. We had lost this tournament season with an incredibly embarrassing score. The next day, Coach Lee approached me and said, "Hey Sarah, I know you felt like the responsibility of the last tournament of the season was on your shoulders. However, you need to know that basketball is a team sport. You need to depend on your teammates for support too." This felt like the 100th time that Coach Lee reminded me of this and tried to motivate me. Still, I felt like the onus was on me to win the game. I believed that I was the only one capable of scoring the final goal and hence refused to pass the ball to anyone else. Yet, at the most crucial moments, I somehow always failed to score the goal. Feelings of guilt and embarrassment overwhelmed me. I burst into tears. A hand rested on my shoulder and a voice said, "Sarah, we're here for you." Wiping the tears from my eyes, I looked up and saw my whole team smiling reassuringly at me. "We will work and improve together. You need to learn to allow us to help you too. We play as a team," my vice captain Beatrice said. Their support greatly touched me, and I made a silent promise that I would do my best to follow their advice. Months went by, and we trained harder than ever. this time, I learned to play as a team and trusted them with the ball to take the shot. We improved greatly, and this time I knew we had a shot at winning. In a blink of an eye, we found ourselves in the locker room gearing up for the final round of the championship in the new tournament season. We had come a long way and won almost every match in this season over the past few weeks. This final round would determine the champions of the season. It's finally our turn to bring home the trophy. Let's do this! We yelled in unison as we charged onto the court. 10 minutes into the game, and our team suffered repeated losses to the opponent. I was getting anxious and automatically took things into my own hands. Dribbling the ball past my teammates, I charged towards the hoop, ignoring their beckons to pass the ball to them. Unbeknown to me, an opponent came up from behind me and took the ball from my possession. She bolted to her team's hoop and scored yet another goal. I suddenly remembered my teammates' words to play as a team. I had to believe in them. I watched as my teammates skillfully dribbled and passed the ball around. Score! 3 minutes later, another teammate scored a shot. Slowly, our team climbed up the scoreboard. The clock began to count down to the end of the match. We needed one more goal to seal our victory, and I was determined to win. At the corner of my eye, I saw Beatrice closing in fast to the opponent with the ball. We play as a team, Beatrice's words echoed through my mind, and I knew she had a better chance at the free throw than I. Blocking the rest of the opponents from surrounding her, I cleared the area for Beatrice while she expertly swooped the ball away and made the shot. Score! The ball went through the hoop as the countdown buzzed, indicating the end of the match. Victory! However, this time round, it was us cheering jubilantly for that final point that sealed our victory. We did it! We played as a team and won. I finally understood what my favorite basketballer, Michael Jordan, meant when he said, "Talent wins games, but teamwork and intelligence win championships."
Friends Forever, inspired by Zhang Qinji. Once upon a time, there was a magical forest where animals of every kind lived together in harmony. Among them, the oldest animal was Caleb the crane. He had a frail body and a long mustache that touched the ground. Everyone loved and respected Caleb as he was the forest doctor. Every day, he would bring along his first aid kit and walk around the forest, looking out for any injured or sick animals. Then, he would treat them by using herbs that he plucked from the hill nearby. One morning, Caleb the crane decided to take a dip in a nearby lake before going out to make his rounds to treat the animals of the forest. Caleb closed his eyes and his frail body floated gently on the surface of the lake. Suddenly, a pungent smell wafted through the air. Caleb opened his eyes, and to his horror, the lake he was in was filled with thick, dark liquid. It soaked his white feathers to a dark brown. Caleb immediately knew it was an oil spill and that he had to leave quickly. Unfortunately, the thick oil had coated his feathers, leaving his wings stuck together. Caleb flapped his wings with all his might, but his weak body could not lift away from the sticky oil. Not wanting to trouble anyone, he did not call out for help. Caleb's sudden absence soon became noticeable. He has always been known for his jokes and contagious laughter, which made his patients less nervous. Wherever Caleb went, the area was filled with joy and bursts of laughter. However, the forest this morning was unusually quiet. Where was Caleb? The animals of the forest frantically searched around, but they could not find Caleb anywhere. Then Richard the rabbit suggested, "Shall we go to Caleb's wooden hut by the lake to see if he's there?" Other animals agreed with his suggestion, and together they started making their way there. Upon seeing Caleb struggling to get out of the oil in the lake, all of the animals rushed to him. By then, Caleb was already very weak from trying to fly out of the oil and could barely keep himself afloat. Richard the rabbit instructed the strong honey bears to hoist Caleb out of the oil and the birds to fetch pails of clean water. Caleb was coated with dark brown oil on every inch of his body, and his wings were almost completely stuck together. Caleb shivered violently, and the animals knew they had to act quickly. They wrapped a thick blanket around him as the otters got down to work, washing his wings feather by feather. The rest of the animals began putting together a special concoction that would replenish all of the energy Caleb had lost whilst struggling to fly out. Hours later, all the sticky oil was washed off Caleb, and the animals brought him to lay down on his bed. Caleb was exhausted by then, and his tired eyes closed shut. Over the next few weeks, animals from all corners of the forest volunteered to look after Caleb and would routinely bring herbs and medicines they made from home. They ensured that he was being attended to every day. One sunny morning, Caleb the crane picked up his first aid kit and emerged from his wooden hut. When the animals of the forest saw this, they cheered for Caleb and at his strength for making a full recovery. Caleb was very touched by this, and he exclaimed, "Thank you everyone for having looked after and saved me. You are all definitely my friends, forever." The animals agreed in unison and clapped excitedly. This experience showed them what true friendship was. True friends help one another in times of need and never shy away from looking out for each other. From then on, the animals forged deeper friendships with one another, and the community in the magical forest became closer.
Taking Responsibility, inspired by Airden and Nordy, written by Adrian Tay and Neo Hui Mei. Once upon a time, in a forest filled with flowers of different blends, lived Peter the porcupine and his fellow animal friends. One unfortunate morning, a group of boys gathered in the forest. They began picking and digging, collecting stones to compete who could throw them the furthest. The boys laughed and cackled in glee as stones and pebbles were flung with their slings. The animals had nowhere to flee, leaving them bruised and cowering. Peter the porcupine was enraged. He wanted justice for his wounded friends. Homes were destroyed and the forest rampaged. Peter the porcupine wanted this to end. Storming up to the boys, Peter the porcupine rebuked them fiercely. "How dare you treat us like toys? You have left us wounded and bloody." The boys hung their heads low in shame. "We are sorry for the pain we brought. Our actions have brought hurt and we are to blame. This is the end we would never have thought. We take full responsibility, for we had been hasty. We seek your forgiveness, and we promise no more of such foolishness."
The Plastic Forest, written by Rachel Sim. Once upon a time, city dwellers were constantly dumping their rubbish into a nearby forest. All the garbage began insidiously entering the forest's ecosystem. One day, something very strange began to happen. Plastic bottles began growing on the branches, while glass cups began sprouting from the ground. Flowers of the forest grew petals made from aluminum metal. Scientists were baffled by the phenomenon, and some even chose to ignore the situation. However, there was a group of children who realized the severity of the issue. "We need to save our forest," said Shayna, a 9-year-old girl from the city who was determined to change things. Without hesitation, the children banded together and ventured into the forest. With rivers contaminated with all kinds of waste, sea creatures were being washed up on the riverbanks, choked with plastic. The leaves on trees turned into green paper and could no longer absorb sunlight for photosynthesis. Many plants withered away, forcing animals to migrate elsewhere for food. The grass had turned into hard plastic strands, poking anything that walked over them. It was a disaster. "We have a huge task ahead of us, but I know we can do it," said Shayna encouragingly. With her shovel and trash bag, Shayna and the team began meticulously picking up all the litter. The children tended to the forest every day. Although it was exhausting, the children were determined to save their precious forest. They labored day and night, picking up every piece of trash. Weeks passed, and one morning, as the children headed to the forest as per usual, they caught a whiff of fresh flowers. The sound of birds chirping filled the forest for the first time in a long while. In a nearby creek, the crystal clear water teemed with life. The forest was clean. The children were overjoyed and rolled on the soft forest bed. Leaves rustled in the wind as if singing their gratitude to the children. Shayna smiled to see the forest finally cleaned. What a sight to behold! It was as if the forest could breathe again, and so could she. Shayna picked up a pebble from the ground and let it drop into a nearby pond. As it made ripples in the water, she realized how one small desire for change could bring up a larger ripple effect.
The Wasteland, inspired by Juan Haider, written by Shen Kai. "What is this, grandfather?" asked little Tim curiously as he peered over the village wall. With brows furrowed, 85-year-old Juan cast his gaze towards the fields littered with dead plants. Letting out a sigh, he replied, "This, my dear boy, is the wasteland, or what used to be Jurong Lake Gardens. Let me tell you what happened here. The wasteland was a beautiful garden. Hordes of people thronged here to see flowers by the dozens. Everything was magical like fiction. What happened next was catastrophic. A meteorite struck one day. Shrubs and trees began to wither. Animals were in a panic. The rivers dried up with nothing to offer. Earth was heating up. Lifeless were the plants that had no water. Alas, the once beautiful garden became lifeless and dead. No animal nor human dared to tread. Dear boy, will you save the garden and pave the way ahead?"
Family, inspired by Mohammed Danish Adrian. Julia is a little girl who lives with her parents in sunny Singapore. However, she was often described as a spoiled girl, and evidently so. Julia often demanded that her parents bought her the most expensive toys to play. If they refused, Julia would throw huge tantrums. What was worse was she would occasionally steal things that caught her eye. It seemed no amount of scolding would change her attitude and ways. One day, while strolling along a boulevard with her parents, she saw the most amazing potted plant she had ever seen. It had bright neon green leaves dotted with yellow spots. It caught her attention immediately. The price tag read $500. She was certain her parents would not agree to buy it. Hence, Julia decided to steal a few leaves from the plant. She swiftly plucked and shoved the leaves into her pocket. However, this was no ordinary plant, but a magical plant. Back home, the moment Julia touched the leaves, they pulsed with light and Julia vanished. Gasping, she started waving her hands about, but they could not be seen. She screeched, "Oh my goodness!" But no one could hear nor see her. She had turned invisible. "Yay!" she exclaimed. "I can get all the things that I want." Julia skipped past her parents and out of the house to the nearby candy shop. She shoved bags of candy into her pockets, squealing in delight at her new superpower. After a whole day of running about town, she returned home exhausted. Mommy, Daddy, I'm home. Give me my dinner, Julia demanded. However, her parents did not respond. Daddy, can you see me? Julia asked, a slight panic in her voice. Once again, her parents did not budge. At this moment, Julia realized how she had taken advantage of her parents. A voice came from the pulsating green leaves saying, "Was this not what you wanted? You can get any toy that you want without worrying about what your parents say." "No, I want my parents back. I don't care if I cannot have any more toys. I just want to be back with my parents," Julia cried. She wished that she had never tried to steal the magical plant. Poof! Her sincere wish was granted. She could see herself in the mirror. She was back in her own skin. She was visible again. She ran straight to her parents to hug them. She learned a huge lesson from this dream: to never take your loved ones for granted.
Robbie the Recycling Bin. Inspired by Umaira Uriza. Written by Rachel Sim. On the side of the bustling roads of Singapore sat Robbie the Recycling Bin on the floor. He loved gobbling down trash from passers-by. No piece of garbage would he deny. However, people gradually stopped feeding him, and the situation turned really dim. They threw their trash on the ground, far from where Robbie was found. Rumble, rumble, his stomach would go. Robbie soon felt a great sense of woe. Please, somebody, give me something to eat, even if it is just a little bit. Suddenly, a little boy stepped forward. Paper cup in hand, he answered, "You look incredibly hungry, dear recycling bin. Let me call my friends and we can all chip in." A group of children soon showed up, each holding on to recyclables and paper cups. They hurriedly fed Robbie the recycling bin, till he was slowly filled to the brim. From that day onwards, the children kept to their word. They brought recyclables collected from around and fed Robbie till he weighed a pound. Robbie the Recycling Bin was eternally grateful for his friends who were sent like angels. He vowed to help others who were in need, just as the children did him this good deed.
Why I Love to Go to School. Inspired by Kun Kwon Hap's illustrations. School life is exciting. Rain or shine, I will go to school. School is a place for us to learn. There is an abundance of resources and helpful teachers. We should not take it for granted. Maximizing our time in school is what we can do. Pursuing my passion after class, to learn to sing and to dance, boosts my self-confidence. Homework may be tough sometimes, but when in doubt, I ask teachers and friends for assistance. To live life to the fullest, we should find ways to improve ourselves. Learning should never cease. It is the way to go. Whistle Champion, inspired by Lee Ali's illustrations. When I whistle, different birds come calling. Soon, I became famous for my whistling. The little birds respond with their tweeting. When I dance, different birds start flying. Soon the new skies film me dancing. Now the whole town is all about smiling. I wondered if I continued whistling, would people find me entertaining? Could I be a champion? So, I entered a contest, leaving my whistling to do the rest. And now people look at me and think I'm the best. My name's all over the press. I, Lee Ali, became the best. Let's whistle to my story of success. Great Little Things, inspired by Tan Ho's illustrations. Choppy sounds up high, helicopter in the sky. Please don't say goodbye. melodic chirping, beautiful, vibrant flowers. I'd stay for hours. Sip afternoon tea. I love feeling so carefree, grinning wide in glee. This red umbrella, an old favorite of mine, whether rain or shine. An enormous ship in the middle of the sea, its flag waves to me. It's time for some fun, playing with balls in the sun. I love this so much. I glance around me, see and hear the sights and sounds. I'm so content. Never Far From Home, inspired by Yo Ling Mill's illustrations. As high up, wandering to wherever. Selamat siang Mbak. Weaving through the crowds, heat, smoke, cacophony of peddlers, bargains and cuts, hustle to hawk their wares for a tote and a handbag. The bright yellow sun paints the midday sky. A cartload of fruits clatter by. Sun begins to wane, but the city grows livelier as the streets buzz to life. Our feet grew weary, resting over high tea, marveling the land. I wondered, how far are we from home? Selamat sore Mbak. Minum apa? Never far from home.
A Beautiful Journey, inspired by Ding Hua Ying's illustrations, written by Kenneth Chi. Legend has it that a bed of exquisite flowers can be found only in one place on earth, the mountain of Timar. This is not far from the vibrant city of Bisbee. The flowers were said to be so pretty that seeing them brought instantaneous joy. However, in Bisbee, everyone was caught up in the pursuit of material wealth, leaving them with no time to do anything other than work. They were only concerned about making as much money as possible. Nobody cared about anything unrelated to money, except for one girl named Helen. Helen loved nature. She fervently believed in the legend of the flowers of Mount Timar when she first heard it as a child. Unfortunately, her parents were always too busy to bring her. They were also unwilling to let her hike up the mountain alone. On the morning of her 18th birthday, Helen finally got her parents' approval to hike up Mount Timar. She was excited about her maiden climb. Upon reaching the base of Timar, she caught a glimpse of the flowers atop of the mountain. The flowers glistened in the sunlight as if beckoning to her, saying, "I have been waiting for you." The steep hills, long bridges, and tall grass made the journey treacherous at some points. Yet the greenery, fluffy clouds, and cute mountain animals she encountered along the way lifted her spirits and encouraged her to continue her ascent. After what seemed to her like an eternity, she finally reached her destination. Not only was she greeted by the exquisite bed of flowers, she spotted a beautiful rainbow in every imaginable color and filled the air with a beautiful aroma. She was overwhelmed with an immense sense of accomplishment from having completed the hike. Moreover, she learnt a very interesting lesson, that the legend of the flowers bringing instantaneous joy was true. However, it was not due to any magic. It was simply the joy of persevering through the journey and reaching her goal. Truly, what a beautiful journey it was. The end.
Don't Give Up, Little Flower. Inspired by Ng Kwai Ing's illustrations, written by Isabella Cordelia Chua. Down the road lived a kind elderly woman, Miss Kwai Ing. At the ripe old age of 79, she spent most of her retirement days in the quaint garden. Every morning, she put on her favorite purple straw hat and gathered her gardening tools. Miss Kwai Ing finds great joy tending to the gerbera daisies in the garden. She normally used 4 gardening tools: rake, fork, shovel, and cultivator. She began with a rake, a tool that has metal parts sticking out at the bottom to rake over the soil. Then, Miss Kwai Ing took a gardening fork to dig and break the soil into smaller pieces. With the help of a cultivator, she turned the soil to prevent weeds from disrupting the plant's growth. Once the soil was ready for new life, she took a shovel to dig a hole and sprinkled 5 gerbera daisy seeds over it. Finally, she covered the seeds with soil and watered them with a trusty watering can. Little by little, the seeds began to sprout. With a cheery song and a twinkle in her eyes, Miss Kwai Ing watered the flowers faithfully every day. Out of the 5 seeds that she planted, only 4 bloomed flowers. 1 did not grow at all. Miss Kwai Ing was determined to bring the last seed to life and did not give up. She tended to it daily with extra care and added the best fertilizers. Rain or shine, Miss Kwai Ing would spur the little seed to grow with encouraging words. Months passed, and Miss Kwai Ing remained undaunted. One afternoon, wearing her trusty purple hat, she took a stroll in her backyard garden. Her eyes caught a glimpse of a splendid sight. A little bud was glistening in the sunlight. The last seed finally blossomed into a pretty pink gerbera daisy. The flowers swayed with the gentle winds and waved happily at her gardener. Miss Kwai Ing jumped for joy and named her little flower Tenacity, which means perseverance. Miss Kwai Ing truly embodied the meaning behind the gerbera daisies: innocence, purity, and cheerfulness. With a cheerful heart and perseverance, the pink daisy gerbera bloomed in its own time. Sometimes you may feel like you're lagging behind. However, you do not have to compare your journey with another person. You will surely blossom into the beautiful flower that you are. Don't give up, little flower.
My Childhood, inspired by So Pei Guat's illustrations, written by Brian Lim. The most memorable moments of my childhood were spent in school. I remember it was a small and cozy place amid a large field filled with beautiful flowers. I loved going to school as a child because I made many new friends there. Today, when I see students walking around in groups after school, I am reminded of the time that I spent with my friends. I have especially fond memories of school back when I was 6 years old. I vividly remember music lessons where my friends and I would sing songs together in class, together with our teacher. I also enjoyed learning about numbers, although it was difficult when we started. We had toys to help us learn how to count up to 10, which made it very fun for all of us. The most interesting thing we did in school was having picnics. I remember the teachers guiding us to make sandwiches. Thinking back, we must have made such a big mess. Yet the teachers were very patient and never got angry with us. After preparing the food, we would head out to the field for our picnic. I remember standing under the shade of a huge tree and setting up the mat on the grass for the picnic. We would always bring a ball or a kite with us. My friends and I would run around the grass playing with the ball, and some of us would fly the kite. Back in those days, we had a lot of fun. All of us loved school. We were excited to go to school every day because we wanted to see each other. I really miss the enjoyable times I spent with my friends. The times we spent running around carefree in the field were the best moments of my childhood. The end. A Day in the Life of Melissa, inspired by Yen Li Ming's illustrations, written by Kang Wei Young. Melissa loved having a cold drink on a hot afternoon with her friends. Over drinks, they discussed about anything under the sun. Sharing their daily lives with each other was their way of relieving the stress from their hectic lifestyles. Every Saturday, they met at the country club and hung out in their favorite cafe. The cafe had outdoor benches. There, Melissa and her friends would bask in the sunlight while sipping their ice-cold drinks. The cafe was situated at the top of a hill. Below was a golf course, a large field of grass with trees peppered near the sides, giving it a serene look. Melissa liked to close her eyes and feel the breeze run through her hair and gently tickle her face. When Melissa was younger, she would come to this country club frequently to practice golf. Her coach would ask her to take shot after shot, pushing Melissa to her limits. It was tough, but she enjoyed the challenge. After many years of rigorous training, Melissa's coach saw her potential and encouraged her to sign up for a pro golf championship. The training for the championship was intense. Melissa had to practice every day. On the day of the championship, Melissa was excited, but also afraid that she would disappoint her coach if she did not do well. Her coach saw that she was nervous and told her, "Melissa, do not be afraid. Whatever we do in life, we do our best, and success will follow. No matter the result of the championship, we learn to improve ourselves." Upon hearing this, a wave of calm descended upon Melissa as she stood tall and mentally prepared herself. When it was her turn, her many hours of training showed through her excellent technique as she gracefully outperformed the other competitors. Every hole she scored gave her even more confidence. In the end, she crushed her competition and even scored a hole-in-one. From this competition, Melissa learned that life is about doing your best and not giving up. Do your best, and success will follow. Never give up hope. Inspired by Ong Ping Hong's illustrations, written by Liao Xingping. The year was 1944, but I remembered what happened as if it were yesterday. Whoosh went my scooter as I raced down the hill. I let out a cheeky grin as I took a quick glance behind and saw that my friends were still far behind. I finally stood a chance at coming in first for the daily scooter races on the steep hill behind our houses. Since I was a little boy, I had always been an adrenaline junkie. When my parents pushed me around on a stroller, I would imagine that I was in a race car, swerving and turning on the pedestrian sidewalk. Vroom! I would squeal in excitement. As I was busy reminiscing about the past, my friends steadily closed the distance between us. Seeing that my friends were fast catching up, I panicked. I raced even faster, glancing behind at them. Turn right, my friends screamed behind me. I turned my head back to the front, and to my horror, I was headed towards a huge pit that some gardeners had dug last week to make a pond. I stepped down on the brakes as hard as I could, but it was too late. I was going too fast. I braced myself as my scooter hit a rock by the edge of the massive hole. My scooter was now in mid-air as it flipped, and I landed at the bottom of the hole. I heard a loud quack and felt intense pain shoot up my right shoulder. My friends rushed over as fast as they could to my side. Soon after, the pain was so intense that everything else just went blurry. I remember waking up in the hospital with a bright white cast over my right arm and shoulder. I later found out that my friends had rushed back to tell my parents, and they called an ambulance. Looking down at my immobilized right arm, mixed feelings of dread, anger, and regret crept into my head. There goes my chances of being a race car driver when I grow up, I thought to myself. At this moment, my parents walked in. I braced myself for the barrage of scolding that I was about to receive. To my surprise, my parents rushed to my side and gave me a big hug and asked if I was all right. I assured them that I was fine, but distraught over how I had just lost all chances of being a race car driver. Their next words would stay with me for the rest of my life. Do you think heroes got to where they are today without a few broken bones? Keeping their words in my mind, I gave my best during the physiotherapy sessions, and steadily my arm began to recover. Eventually, my arm healed and was as good as new. When I look back at this incident, the lessons learned were invaluable. Never give up. no matter how hopeless your situation may seem. The end.
Connected Inside, poem and illustration by Erica Makashib. Collecting memories of a childhood where new friends and experiences never cease to surprise and excite the young and carefree. Conquering hills and mountains that appear along the way and enduring raging storms that daunt even the most seasoned travelers. Internalizing lessons learned and noting down reflections whenever stories are made and shared. Inspiring change and defeating odds, even if we're weary.
The Puzzle of Life. Story and illustrations by Ignatius Pereira and Monica Francis John.
Lewis opened his report card and let out an audible sigh. He had performed poorly in the examinations. Although the school holidays that signaled an end to the school period was due to begin, it was, right now, the furthest thing from Lewis's mind. He was anticipating the scolding that he was about to receive from his father back home because of his poor grades. With his head drooping down, Lewis clutched onto his report card and proceeded to head home. Upon reaching home, he trotted into the living room where his father was already seated, waiting for his arrival. "I had just gotten off the phone with your teacher," Lewis's father said, spotting his son's appearance. "I understand that you were given your report cards today?" his father questioned. "Yes, Dad. It was for the recent examinations, which were challenging," Lewis muttered, hoping to placate his father. Lewis wished that he would be the first to break the bad news to his father. Unfortunately, he hadn't expected his foreign teacher to beat him to it. His father nodded at his reply, then stood up and went to the study. He returned to the room holding a red box. "What do you think of this picture?" Lewis's father asked him as he turned the box towards him. The box, a jigsaw puzzle set, displayed an image of the Esplanade on its cover. "That looks really beautiful," Lewis uttered, staring at the picture in amazement. His father then opened the box and tipped its contents out onto the coffee table. "Well, Lewis," his father said, "when I was much younger, the Esplanade was still in the midst of construction. Your grandfather took me to the site to see firsthand the hard work the construction workers did to create the iconic structure we all love today." Turning to Lewis, he placed his hand on Lewis's shoulder and said gently, "While that structure has been completed, this jigsaw puzzle embodies the meaning of that hard work. Life is like a puzzle. It may seem messy and challenging at first. However, if you do your best and unapologetically press on and even seek assistance if you require it in completing your tasks, you will, like the Esplanade, eventually become a complete piece, one that would be cherished by all." His father continued, "Your recent academic results, though they might seem bad right now, represents merely a piece of the entire puzzle of your life. Keep your chin up, right your wrongs, and continue to improve. You will eventually find your own way with the right piece that you seek to help you in your journey in completing the puzzle of life." Lewis nodded in agreement. He felt like a burden had been lifted off his shoulders. Hugging his dad, he announced confidently, "I will press on and make you proud." Life, my friends, is indeed like a box of puzzle pieces. Do not be disheartened by the failures in your life, but instead pick yourself up and persevere to piece together the best versions of yourselves.